Hi friends, I want to go over the Ten Commandments real quickly. I kind of want to just see what you think about this, and we think about how if it's changed any since God wrote these down. So the first one was we shall not have any other gods before Him. The second one, He says, don't make any idols. Don't make nothing out of stone underneath the waters or flying creatures. No idols. Number three, don't take the Lord's name in vain. We know a lot of people do that today, but say don't use my name like that, and any other don't do that. Number four is remember the Sabbath. This is one that kind of I had to learn, and I just kind of didn't understand exactly the whole reason behind the Sabbath. But hey, it's one of the 10. Number five, it says honor your father and your mother. From number 5 to 10, these are basically pertaining to us within people, like our interactions, like with our neighbor, human to human. All right, so number 5 was like honor your mother and your father. Number 6, don't kill, don't murder. Number 7, don't commit adultery. You know, if you're married, stay married. Don't be jumping around. Number 8, don't steal. It's a given. Nobody likes to be stolen from. Number 9, don't bear false witness. Don't be lying. Don't be accusing other people. And number 10 basically was no coveting. Don't be eyeballing anybody's property. Like, I want that. How come I'm not like that? So those are the 10 commandments. The interesting thing about this is that they were written in stone. It wasn't like if it wasn't written. I'm sure it was written in the scroll later down. But God had these written on with basically rock. Like, this is a stone. It's like nobody can erase what I'm telling you here. These are 5 and 5, 2 tablets, 5 on one, 5 on the other. Moses had to carry these tablets down the mountain. When he found out how everything was, he broke them, remember? So God made another set. All right, so there was another set of I don't know if it was God or if it was Moses, but there was tablets of stone written that were placed in the Ark of the Covenant. So the Ark of the Covenant was basically it was a chest, and it contained sacred items, and 10 commandments were in there. I believe there was a golden cup that carried manna also, and I know like the Aaron's staff that was also inside the ark. Not anybody could touch the ark. Only, I guess it was the Levites were able to move this. If anybody else touched this ark, they died. So these 10 commandments were pretty powerful. It represented basically the presence of God, and they had to carry this. So once they left Egypt and they made this Ark of the Covenant, its final resting place was when King Solomon built the temple, and it was placed inside the temple. And that was, I don't know how many years were in between since Moses was given these 10 commandments to when the temple was built. But it was a long time, but they were written in stone. And I was just thinking about how when something is written down, it's binding. It's like written, it's like powerful. You can't just say, oh, I didn't say that. When they had a transaction back in the day, they also had the custom of writing a receipt or an invoice or something kind of like a document stating, hey, this is what we're selling, this is the price, and witnesses. I believe in the Abraham, when he purchased the cave, a piece of land that was also that he wanted. He said he didn't want to pay a lesser price because he didn't want to say, hey, you're giving me a deal here. He paid full value price, and he also had witnesses, and they signed the document, and those documents were preserved. And the time came when, I believe it was when Esau and Jacob, something happened where Esau didn't want to give up the cave. He didn't want to give up the land. So those documents were retrieved, and there was a fight about it. People died over this, but there was a document. So if people were to die over a piece of property, piece of land, think about what the 10 commandments meant for God. Like, he wrote this, he wanted this to be documented in a way that it wasn't going to be forgotten so easily, what he thought. Obviously, there was other rules that were not written within the Ten Commandments. There was hundreds of other rules that they had to do, like how they had to sacrifice animals, what type of animals, when you had to do it. There was so many rules, but we know those rules were eliminated once Jesus gave his blood, and he was the ultimate sacrifice. Thus, he redeemed the world with his blood. So they no longer had to practice all those other ones. But the ones that were written in stone, how hard is it to live by those rules? And if God wrote those 10 in stone, it had to mean something. I tell you this too because when you purchase a piece of property, a piece of land, or even a house, they have what's called a title commitment. And it basically refers to, hey, look, this is what we found on the title, on the history of this property. And these are the liens, these are the owners, these are the transactions of the history of all the purchasers that owned this property back dating 100 years or however long the property was built, if it was a house or if it was a piece of land. But nobody can just come in and say, hey, I'm going to purchase this land. If this title commitment is clouded, sometimes this property won't sell. It'll stay until they figure it out. And sometimes it'll go into what's called probate, and a judge will have to decide who's going to own it or what happened if there was a clouded title. Like maybe there was something that happened in history that wasn't recorded, or there was somebody passed away and someone else has ownership, like a son or a daughter or something like that. Anyways, if we respect what's recorded within the city, all right, the city has a place where you can pull up all these documents, and it tells you, okay, this is the owner, and you respect that. You won't purchase a property that's not legit. If we respect the document right now that's recorded, how much more would God think of his documents that he recorded with his own finger? You know, he's like, these are my 10 commandments. So when people say, hey, the Old Testament doesn't apply anymore, that's true. Like the Old Testament's hey, we don't have to sacrifice animals anymore because God doesn't require that. He already gave his son. All right. But what about the 10 commandments? Are you going to say, oh, we don't have to, we can worship other gods now? Yeah, we don't have to honor our father and our mother. You know, oh, here's a good one. We don't have to celebrate the Sabbath. If these 10 commandments were written in stone and God doesn't change, right? Did he ever say, don't stop celebrating the Sabbath? No. Did he ever say, don't stop honoring your mother, your father? Don't stop killing? Don't stop committing adultery? He never said any of that. So all of these apply still, you know? So it's just kind of like, when something is kind of hard to understand, like in my case, the Sabbath was kind of hard to understand for me. Like, why would he say that? You know, I had to bring my thinking up. I had to step up my game to understand that God doesn't change. Even though I don't understand it, I have to understand him. So I understood basically, well, we're supposed to work 6 days a week. All right, Sabbath is a Saturday, it's not a Sunday. So from Sunday to Friday, we can work. One day out of the week, he says, rest. That day, I want you to worship me. I want you to rest and focus on me for one day out of the week. And since Moses wrote this down, they had to follow this all the way until, the temple and until Jerusalem. Even when Jesus was alive, they were still honoring the Sabbath. So just it's interesting how today we don't believe in the Sabbath, or many people don't practice the Sabbath. But man, it's still one of the top 10. It's still in the 10 commandments. So think about it. God doesn't change. Why do we change? If it's hard for us to understand, then we have to do some more studying and kind of understand how God thinks. It's just a real good, information here that you can take to heart, think about it, and really just meditate on, is it really that big of a deal to honor the Sabbath, to keep it holy? And basically on the Sabbath, it was a day that you should worship, pray, come together, not work. He said, you don't work. All right, so it's just a happy occasion for the whole entire nation of Israel, and they're just kind of chilled. So, anyways, I kind of see how all of these things were just basically for our benefit, and it's not like he was saying, "Hey, don't do this because I'm like, I'm being pushy, or I'm kind of like I want to show my strength or flex on you." No, he's not like that. He basically is looking out for us. He made it for us. Anyways, guys, I just thought that there was some information that maybe you like to hear. It's just interesting. So thanks for listening, and until next time.